Dr. Wendy Rice with Rice Psychology. Dr. Rice from Rice. I mean, where else would she work in Houston? Joins us this morning. Dr. Rice, it is a pleasure to have you on with us. You and I were just chatting off air. I say we're over-medicating our children. Every rambunctious child is given a pill so they will settle down, and they're told they have ADHD. Now, you disagree with that.
I don't think that every child is told they have ADHD, and I know that every child isn't given medication. In my practice in Tampa, some kids are and some kids aren't. So we definitely are diagnosing 5 to 8% of kids with ADHD, and it does seem like a very high number.
So now, I've talked to teachers that tell me that it seems that every child in their class is on some kind of medication, and that every time a child gets, a little rambunctious, doctors seem to suggest that, well, maybe they need some kind of ADHD medication. You would disagree with that. I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
I definitely would disagree with that. The real numbers are much, much lower than that. There definitely are a handful of kids in most classrooms who may be medicated. The numbers in the United States population are well under 10%, so it can't be every child in the classroom. And certainly there's 100 things that you can do before you think about medication to help the child manage in school.
And do you think doctors are doing that? Do you think that by and large, doctors are doing those other things before they prescribe medication?
I don't think doctors are doing all of those things. And I do think, oftentimes pediatricians don't have a lot of time. They're treating warts, they're treating ear infections. Parents come to them, they do some rating scales, they say, yep. But the diagnostic process really is a little bit more complicated than that. And sometimes the acting out behaviors or the fidgetiness is due to anxiety or due to a learning problem or due to conflicts at home,
right,
not due to ADHD.
Very happy to have Dr. Wendy Rice with Rice Psychology joining us this morning. Doctor, this is a good conversation. I like this. All right, I'm getting emails and tweets. They love our conversation. So just real quick, before I get to autism, the long-term effects of ADHD medication on our kids, do we know what those long-term effects may be?
A little bit we know. So we know that it suppresses appetite. So we know that these kids don't eat as much. And we know that kids who take a stimulant for a long time are going to be a little bit shorter than other kids. Oh, and my dogs are going crazy. We know that they're not as tall as other kids. We don't really know. Ritalin's been prescribed for 60 years. And we generally think that's a safe drug. And we really believe that there are not long-term adversarial effects of Ritalin.
Other than they'll be short and skinny. All right.
But, it's not so bad to be short and skinny. At least to be skinny is a good thing. You live longer.
Okay, Doctor. I like Dr. Rice. Final question, autism. I know so many children that have been diagnosed with autism. It seems to be something we're seeing more and more of. What is the reason for that? Is it because we recognize it more, or is it something that seems to be cropping up more in kids?
It seems to be a combination of both. I think that we're better at diagnosing. I think that people are much more aware of the spectrum, and kids who are not that involved or, who are not so severely affected are getting diagnosed. 20 years ago, I saw my first kid with Asperger's disorder, but I didn't know what Asperger's disorder was, so I really had to look it up and research it. We know so much more about that stuff at this point than we used to know. There also seems to be an increase in incidence of autism spectrum disorders, and nobody knows why.
Dr. Wendy Rice with Rice Psychology joining us this morning. I enjoyed that conversation, and so did our audience. I hope that you and I can continue, in the future having these kinds of discussions.
That would be great.